Hi everyone. For my first UDL video that really stood out to me was the Deeper Learning Cultural Simulation. It was with an 11th grade history class. So basically the students were split into two different groups in two different classrooms, and each set of those classrooms had a different culture that they would act out. Students would move back and forth between each classroom, and they would practice their cultures within that classroom, and students had to try to kind of figure out how to interact with students in that culture and figure out what was acceptable in that culture and what wasn't acceptable in that culture. I think this video was really interesting because students had to engage with each other and kind of discuss and try to figure out what a different culture is and kind of try to understand that culture and understand what was appropriate. And I think that correlates to real life a lot. When you are in new cultures, you have to figure out what is acceptable and what isn't really acceptable in each cultures, and kind of be mindful of that and be able to communicate with people in different cultures. And I feel like the teachers in this video really kind of stood back and let students figure this out for themselves, which I thought was really, really important, because you don't always need to be the leader of each lesson. And the students got to kind of lead the discussion and lead where this simulation went. And they provided them with everything that they would need, so there was very minimal instruction that was needed throughout this simulation. And overall, students really responded to it, and they were very well behaved throughout the video. The second video that I found was interesting was called Project Earth Game. It was also a sort of simulation in the classroom where students would play a game, and they would be given different scenarios in their community where they would have to figure out the best way to go about this. So a lot of the scenarios had to do with clean water, clean air, and fires, and how best to treat that. Some students were considered the mayors and politicians of the town, so they would be making the ultimate decisions, and everybody else were considered the people of the community, so they would voice their opinions, which then the politicians would have the final say in what they would do moving forward. I think that this one was also really interesting because it gave students an insight into what life was like. They were each given jobs like farmers, firefighters, and they were given salaries and had paydays. They paid taxes, so they understood how that worked. And every decision that they had ramifications. So if they chose a more expensive solution, they would have to pay more in taxes. If they didn't choose to fix something right away, then it would kind of come up again, and they would have to end up paying taxes for that as well. So it really gave them a chance to engage and discuss each scenarios and reasonings for why they should choose to do make a decision for the politicians. And once again, the teacher was kind of in the back and just kind of mediating the scenario, just giving the different scenarios, what they needed to do and what they needed to discuss. And it was very minimal instruction allowed, and students were really allowed to discuss amongst themselves what they wanted to do. And I think it was a great way to kind of introduce topics and kind of real life situations into a lesson, and kind of stand back and allow your students to discuss amongst themselves and kind of problem solve amongst themselves.